Right now, though, we're going to speak to Stephen Morris, who's from the Workers of England Union. Funnily enough, he wants to talk about Hampshire Police as well, in a slightly different way. But it's Hampshire judicial system, in fact, I suppose you might say. But Stephen, a very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike. How are you doing?
Yeah, okay. I mean, I know that we're going to talk in a moment about that rape case in Hampshire, but I wouldn't mind your view of what's happened today with Nigel Farage talking about the terrible, awful footage that we've all seen now of Henry Nowak's final moments with the police basically arresting him because they thought he had committed some kind of racial attack.
Well, I've not actually seen the video that you've mentioned yet, so I've not seen that. But the actual case is appalling. It's just a completely disgusting scenario that we're in, where somebody's saying, I can't breathe, I've been stabbed. And the police are just not even doing their due diligence. You know, yeah. It's clearly negligence in public office as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
The police officers need to be prosecuted. And the actions from above, we don't want the hierarchy still being in place, who are putting the police officers in these positions where they're more likely to believe somebody who's shouting he's a racist than actually checking on somebody's condition after they've been assaulted. Heads do need to roll for this. And I think it's got to come from higher up. I think it was the deputy chief with his speech. He came trying to apologise. It was just so grey areas in what he was saying, and nobody's going to believe a word he's saying. Oh, I know we're apologising for this. We have too many apologies from people in authority, and not enough proper action that's going on.
Right, and you want to talk about this Hampshire rape case where two teenage boys were sort of excused, if you like, from prison sentences as a result of a judge saying, even though they'd been found guilty, he did not wish to criminalise them. And one of your points, I believe, is that you say justice depends on trust, not just on laws. And I think that covers both the rape case that we're going to talk about, but also the Nowak case, doesn't it?
Yeah, because people aren't aware, a lot of them may not be aware now, that the way the judiciary is set up is that the judges are appointed basically on a political ideology. They have to show a lifetime's commitment to equality and diversity. They're also, anybody who shows any kind of dissent towards a government is not appointed. They've got to look at the sentencing council set up by Labour and the people who are setting the guidelines for these judges. So yeah, the judge, everybody's aiming their anger kind of thing at the judge, but you've got to look at what he's operating within. He's been appointed on a particular position. The sentencing council, which was Keir Starmer, set this up. They also set the guidelines on what judges can or cannot do. And they're following those guidelines. So the entire system has now been politicised, and it's Labour that have been pushing this. And this leads on to the other point, which is to do with doing away with jury services, where now you're going to have one person dealing with it from start to finish, and you could be sentenced, like Lucy Connolly did, you know, for something that's very minor, and yet people who have done these rape cases get off. They get no sentencing, no prison time. Yeah. And this is why it's all become politicised, and people's got to look at behind the scenes of what's going on, not just the judge, but what the judge is actually following. Like I say, how they are appointed, how the guidelines are set for them through people like Keir Starmer when he was head of DPP and so on. And that's where the problem lies for me. As an example for you, Mike, so we say those in mainstream media, they follow usually Ofcom rules. If you fall foul of the Ofcom rules, you get pulled up. However, what if they made them rules so stringent or that you can no longer follow them? They're going to be pulling you up every 2 minutes. Right. And that's what's happening here. They've given the judges a political appointment, sentencing council set up with unaccountable, let's face it, they were unaccountable people. And Keir Starmer was at the head of that at one point. And that, for me, is the biggest concern that people need to look at.
Yeah. I mean, supposedly now Lord Herman, the Attorney General, is going to, possibly launch some kind of judicial review, or he's been asked to look at the sentencing of these kids. But that shouldn't have to happen, should it? I mean, the trouble for me is that for a long time, it seems, the judicial process in this country has been very skewed towards, people like the Howard League for Penal Reform, who seem to think that putting people in prison doesn't work. So therefore, let's not bother. We got the Green Party now saying things like, let's shut prisons down and just let everybody out because, obviously it doesn't work. And there is some truth to that. But at least when you've got dangerous young men or women locked up, they can't do any harm to anyone.
Well, prison was originally there to be a deterrent. People were supposed to be afraid of going to prison, and that's no longer the case now. If a criminal's struggling to get by and doing all kinds of robberies, you put them in prison, what's going to happen? They're going to get 3 meals a day, TV, and all the luxuries going, which they wouldn't get outside.
Yeah.
So the actual entire system does need looking at. The problem we've got at the moment is the people that are looking to do like judicial reviews are all politicised. They're following a political narrative of currently the Labour Party. The Conservatives was in for 13, 14 years, but they were only Conservative in name. They were more like a light red than blue.
Yeah. And
the problem is it does need a major change. And people will get angry at these. I was really surprised with the Nowak case, where they took so long to release that video footage. Like I say, I've not actually seen it yet, and I do have concerns at how long they took to release that footage. And the more people see that, going off what you've just said, are going to become more and more angry with what's gone on.
Yeah, because it is such a horrific, very, very clear example of police getting it completely and utterly wrong. And as we now know from what Nigel Farage said, it's also the fact that police are being told now to treat situations differently depending on who's involved in them.
Yeah. I don't know how his speech yesterday, I don't know how he could be so calm, really. There's no way I would be that calm. I've got an 18-year-old son, and if that happened to mine, I wouldn't be like him. And I believe many people wouldn't be like him.
I know. Well, I said the same last week when I met Emma Webber for the first time, who's Barnaby Webber's mother, who was the victim in the Nottingham attacks, and she was extraordinary. But she said, look, we obviously have a public face because she's been at the inquest all of last week, and I think she'll be back there this week for a couple of days. But she said, we have our moments when they're about as dark as they can get. And I'm like you, I've got a teenage son. You can't imagine it. You just cannot imagine it.
No, it is a frightening scenario to be in, and I definitely wouldn't like to be in their shoes. The only thing we've got to make sure now is they've kind of got justice for the person. Funny enough, we've not had the sentencing yet, as far as I'm aware, on what prison term he's going to be getting. He may end up being a light one, and in 15 years he might be out living his life back to normal.
Are you talking about this the Nowak case?
Culprit?
He was sentenced yesterday, but he was sentenced to less than what the maximum would be because he's been sentenced to, I think, 21 years in prison.
So he'll be out in just around 12, 13 years then,
he could be. But again, that's Nigel Farage is asking for that sentence to be reviewed and looked upon because there could be that he should have been sentenced to more than 25 years, and in certain circumstances, because of the aggravated nature of what he did, by lying to the police and by chasing poor Henry when he was already injured, and because of all the stuff that went on with the family. I mean, he could go for more than 30 years, which I think would be more appropriate.
I've always believed life should mean life. That's it,
Yes.
But the issue here now is to get justice against those in authority who have basically made the police operate the way they have. Both, we need the police officers to be investigated, and if appropriate actions done, disciplinary actions and dismissal. And we need those in authority hoping to account. We need to hold them. And this goes right the way up. How far does it go up? You know, we need to find out if it's come down from the sentencing council to the judges, and the police are then being told by their police hierarchy of what they need to be following.
Yeah.
But police should not be worried about somebody saying, well, he's a racist. So what? The guy was dying on the floor, handcuffed. You know, they really should be done for gross negligence.
Yeah, absolutely right. Now, I mean, people might not know much about what it is that you do at the Workers of England Union. So tell us a little bit about that, Stephen, in terms of what sort of work you actually get involved in.
Well, we're an independent trade union, so we don't affiliate to any political party. And I know there's issues at the moment with the government kind of funding the other unions back with the figure was around 37 million. We don't cost the NHS anything. We don't cost the other public authorities anything. We don't use workplace representatives. So as an example, one bugbear for me is facility time, where the other unions cost the NHS over £18 million in the 23-24 period. We don't use workplace reps. We're completely independent. But we take on cases from all kinds of places. So we're very much an advocate for free speech. We will take on people's issues on free speech. Although the biggest cases at the moment is redundancies, and that's due to the economic climate that we've found ourselves. And that's not just in the private sector, that's also in the public sector. The NHS is going through massive restructures where people are either being redeployed, made redundant. And it's the economic scenario that we're left in with Labour. So from our point, we act very much like a solicitor's firm, but under trade union regulations. An employee comes to us, tells us what their issue is, we look to get it sorted. And we have had some really good cases going back to like the COVID era. We were the only union standing up really for people who couldn't or didn't want to have vaccines. Free speech one's a good one that's going on at the moment. Currently dealing with a case where an employee is being done for replacing a flag on a flagpole at a council building with the England flag. Yeah. And they're trying to discipline him for that, you know. And the issue is, obviously, he replaced a flag that had already been flying. And because he replaced it, they're being done. So there's all kinds of things going on at the moment. And because we're a general union, we will cover people regardless of what they're going on. Now, I know people... So
can people come to you if they're not actually in your union and get represented?
Yeah, we're probably unique in the... We were always set up to help employees. So, yeah, we want people to be members, we want them to join. But if they come to us and say, look, I've never needed a union before, but suddenly I realise I need one, can you represent us? Most unions will say, well, you've got to be a member for 3 months. We will say, okay, we will represent you, but you need to pay the annual fee for membership, which is 145. We will then represent them at their disciplinaries, their appeals, and guide them through an ACAS process if need be. Because we don't want employees to be left on their own. That's the problem. Yeah. And there's many of them suddenly come to us. When I first got into trade union stuff back in 2001, it was, I didn't need a union till 2010. And I was the branch secretary of a union at the time on public transport. I just took it on because nobody else was willing to. So people can come to us and say, look, I've got an issue. Can you assist us? And we'll assist them, because no employee should be left behind. Bearing in mind, an employee is going into a meeting with an employed HR advisor and a manager, and they will have a legal team behind them that will check on everything. And an employee going in on their own with no representation shouldn't happen. You know, they need people, and that's what we allow them to do. And we go. Okay.
And how do people get in touch with you, Stephen, if they need to?
Well, I suppose we're one of the few ones that still have a telephone line where we have actively people who answer it and who can guide them, or they can go to our website, which is workersofengland.co.uk. And that way, like I say, they can phone up, they can get advice, guidance. We send them on to an appropriate rep. And because we don't use workplace reps, what we do, we actually allocate it based on their particular issue. So if it's data protection, we have a particular rep for that. If it's health, issue, we have particular medically qualified personnel to deal with that. So we pick the appropriate rep where a workplace rep will only possibly know about certain workplace policies. Our reps know about employment law, which means their employment law overrides a policy.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, yeah, they can easily get in touch with us by our phone number, which is 0161 883 2552, or the Workers of England.
Okay.
And really, we are unique in what we do. Although we're called the Workers of England Union, we do represent in Wales as well. We do have a sub-branch for the Workers of Wales Union for that one. And, and that's only because the judiciary is the same in England and Wales. Scotland is slightly different on tribunals on that one.
Okay. All right, Stephen. Well, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed for taking the time. That's Stephen Morris, Workers of England Union. If you need help, they look like they might be able to do something for you if you're having trouble in a particular workplace scenario.